This year, it's definitely been challenging. It's not the most traditional year with the pandemic. Definitely a lot of adjustments that had to be made, a lot of staff changes that had to be made. Open-minded, being consistently knowing in the back of your mind that something could change in a second, something that as an RA can be already unpredictable, because residents can be unpredictable, what happens can be unpredictable. It's not a traditional year, and just having to adjust to that.
Given that this is my first year, this is the only experience I have. So for me, being an RA has COVID in itself. That's the only experience I have. It has been a little difficult being on duty for like 8 hours at a time till midnight or sometimes 2 a.m. on weekends. It's difficult, and also making connections is a little more difficult than what I expected because we have to be 6 feet apart. You cannot be in everyone's rooms, and just because of all the policies. So it has been difficult, but I also really love it.
The impact that it has on my semester, I feel like with the whole pandemic situation and the quarantine and isolation, it gets to people. Right now, the most important thing anyone can have right now is friends.
With COVID-19 dominating almost every aspect of life, even on campus, it's very easy to feel isolated and alone. Even the RAs feel the strain, especially when trying to help students gain connections on campus. Many nights are like this, just empty hallways with very little people to talk to.
I know personally many of my residents would like to go out, see their friends in the open air, and hang out, especially make connections being first years. That's kind of like the time where they're able to meet people without any class work they have to do, or be out and about.
They've been telling me it's been hard making friends. They want to make new friends, more friends in the building. Like making new friends is hard for them because of the pandemic. So they've been which isn't a bad thing, what I'm about to say, but they've been going with their old friends from last year, which is great. Some of them said being outgoing from last year paid off a lot this year because they're talking to old friends from last year, which is great. But they also wish that they were able to make new friends this year, and it's hard. And I've noticed that they, be in the rooms like 24/7, and they told me that there really isn't much to do on campus. The social life is gone. Anything on campus is just gone. It's empty.
Lounges, once the center of student life, are now empty, making RA programming all the more difficult.
RAs, we've been tasked with doing programs, and I think it's tough to do so only on Zoom because we're all fatigued from Zoom when it comes to classes, when it comes to events, when it comes to clubs and organizations.
For both as an RA to make the programs, and no one really wants to come because no one wants to do a Zoom program because no one wants to show up because they're tired of being on Zoom, which I don't blame them, but it's hard.
We are not required, but really encouraged to do programming with other campus partners, which involved me reaching out to other people to do programming with them. And that was definitely the hardest part. And also considering the fact that due to this COVID, I cannot have in-person programming that often. So I have to do Zoom programming, and having campus partners over and then no one showing up is one of my fears about this job.
Being over Zoom is very taxing. Being distant from residents is very taxing. Getting that community engagement, getting people to kind of show up, meet new people, socialize has definitely been more challenging than last year. Last year, I kind of had that basis of oh, you could get food and then people will show up to your program no matter what you're doing. And I kind of feel for the newer RAs who haven't really experienced that community engagement that, food sometimes brings together.
Most events and programs have been moved to Zoom, which many students already use for classes daily. This can often lead to screen time overload.
It was hard to pay attention through Zoom because Zoom fatigue is a thing. You get tired of being on Zoom, but there are options available. It's just very difficult, but there are options available for programs social.
But I think it's tough. I don't know if there's a lot you can do in this situation when it comes to programming and helping students fight that isolation.
Without programs to connect with students and the ever-changing rules and regulations needed to be enforced, many feel the RA position has changed from one of leadership to one of enforcement, a situation that only isolates the RAs further.
It has been really challenging. Like I said, I have heard from people who were RA before this year that this job used to be a lot more satisfying. You used to have very good connections with your staff and with your residents. The programming was a really good part, an essential part of it, but right now we are just enforcing rules, and that's the only thing significant about our job right now. Everyone just thinks that we are the people who are there to stop them from having fun, which is not true. We do want them to have fun, just safely.
Personally, I don't think my residents see me other than like, oh, that's the RA on duty at some points, rather than like, oh, that's Jacob, I could have talked to him about anything. Being that enforcement and setting the rules down for our residents is, of course, a top priority and what we do usually, but it seems like it's grown bigger than any other of our objectives as an RA.
With many students this and last semester choosing to go fully remote, many dorm windows have become dark, leaving only those who wanted to stay or had to.
Being in a pandemic kind of brings people together in a way, and I have made connections with my floor, but I just feel just as much distant from them, even though I'm living with them. Like some of the norms that are associated with COVID, like being distanced, Zoom, different things like that have affected that interaction that you could like naturally make while just like being in the lounge or being in the staff office and having residents come by when they're walking by.
RAs are not immune to the isolation a year in COVID has brought. Distance from family and friends can be exacerbated by being in a different dorm than the rest of the class, and not always being able to go back home for quick trips can make things even more isolating.
But so far, adapting to isolation, it's not that bad. Get to be in my room, play music, watch shows, catch up on that. Can get lonely sometimes, but again, everyone needs a friend.
The last time I went home was in 2019, so I have not seen my family for more than a year now. And that has been really hard for me. I'm hoping to go back this summer, but the odds are slim considering the pandemic is still going on. And it has affected me in a way that it makes me feel even more isolated. I have friends and family back home that I have not seen for years. And I do have friends over here, but I miss my friends back home.
It's definitely been difficult. I try and like communicate with my parents and my friends back home as much as I can via like FaceTime or just texting or calling. But like the city is not that far from here. It's like a 70-minute train ride, 45-minute drive. And not being able to go home spontaneously is something I kind of miss.
We are social creatures. There's no denying that. Sure, some people can be introverts and become a hermit and can go on days or even months not seeing people. Isolation and quarantine, that's something I had to adapt myself, but that came at a cost. And that cost should say, being disinterested in friendships, and it has taken a toll on me to the point where I had to go to counseling to get myself checked because that wasn't great. It wasn't the best. And I say that because the counselor that I was seeing also saw the same signs in other people that has been going to counseling. And it's a good thing that I'm not the only one.
Reach out to your RAs, reach out to your NSLs, reach out to other people. It's not obviously the spur of the moment interactions that you have maybe in like a classroom or walking down the hallway. But if you know somebody and you don't know how you're feeling about like your friendship, or if you just met someone, I would tell them to reach out to that person. You never know how much added value that person can bring to your life, whether that be virtually or in person safely. There's a bunch of us on campus being student leaders that are willing to assist in any way we can.
The RA position has changed a lot within the last year, and despite all the new challenges that have come with it, many of the RAs have come out even more prepared for whatever the future has to hold.